It was supposed to be an ordinary Monday morning at Desert Luxe Interiors, the most elegant furniture store in Prescott, Arizona. At first, staff thought it was a new faux fur accent, until the decor yawned, flashed a row of gleaming teeth, and claimed the couch like a throne. Lounging on their most expensive sofa was a wild, honest-to-goodness Bobcat, and it had no intention of leaving. Not aggressive, not snarling, just lounging with the supreme confidence of royalty claiming its throne. How did it get there? This is the story of the most audacious break-in Prescott had ever seen. Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Of all the things Arthur Pendleton expected to find on a Monday morning, a wild cat was not one of them. At 62, Arthur was a man of routine and quiet precision. His life, much like his store, Desert Luxe Interiors, was a carefully curated collection of elegance and order. Each morning, he would arrive precisely at 7:30 a.m., an hour before his staff, to walk the showroom floor. He'd adjust a crooked lampshade, plump a pillow that had dared to settle overnight, and run a loving hand over the glossy surface of a mahogany dining table. The store was his sanctuary, a testament to good taste in the heart of Prescott, Arizona. This particular Monday in late autumn began like any other. The sun, a perfect golden orb, was just beginning to climb over the granite dells, casting long, cool shadows across the town square. A gentle breeze rustled the cottonwood trees, their last yellow leaves clinging stubbornly to the branches. Arthur unlocked the heavy glass doors of Desert Luxe, the familiar chime echoing in the cavernous, silent space. The air inside was still and clean, smelling faintly of leather, wood polish, and the lavender potpourri he insisted be placed by the entrance. He set his briefcase down, straightened his tie, and began his morning pilgrimage. Everything was perfect. The Scandinavian armchairs stood in stoic grace. The rustic farmhouse tables gleamed under the track lighting. The sunlight streamed through the grand floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, silent sprites. He made his way to the centerpiece of the new fall collection, a magnificent Italian leather sofa, the color of rich charcoal, named the Vesuvius. It was a masterpiece of design, minimalist yet inviting, and carried a price tag that made most people whisper. As he approached, something seemed off. There was a shape on the sofa, a lump. It was a tawny, spotted mass nestled right in the center of the pristine cushions. Arthur frowned, his brow furrowing. Had Brenda, the head of marketing, brought in a new prop without telling him? She was always trying to add what she called aspirational lifestyle elements. Last month, it was a ridiculously oversized art book about pottery that no one could lift. Brenda, he muttered under his breath, stepping closer. It looked like a faux fur throw, but the realism was astonishing. He could see the intricate rosettes on the fur, the delicate tufts of a white underbelly, and what looked like two pointed, black-tipped ears. Impressive, he thought, a grudging respect for Brenda's latest find growing within him. Almost looks real. Just then, Sarah Jenkins, his bright and bubbly sales associate, arrived, her keys jangling. "Morning, Arthur. Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Morning, Sarah," he replied, not taking his eyes off the sofa. "Come and have a look at this. Tell me what you think marketing has burdened us with now." Sarah, a young woman with a keen eye for detail, walked over, her coffee cup in hand. She peered at the shape on the sofa. "Wow, that's incredibly lifelike. Is it a decoration?" "It must be," Arthur said, circling the sofa. "But the texture is uncanny. Look at the detail in that fur." Frank, the store's grizzled, semi-retired handyman, shuffled in from the back, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's all the fuss about?" he grumbled, his voice a low rumble. He squinted at the sofa. "Huh, a cat pillow. A fancy one at that. Bet it costs more than my first car." The three of them stood there, a small committee of critics evaluating the inert object. It was perfectly placed, as if a designer had spent an hour arranging it for maximum visual impact. It lent a certain untamed rustic chic to the ultra-modern sofa. "Well, I suppose it's not the worst idea Brenda's ever had," Arthur conceded, reaching out to adjust the price tag that hung from a nearby floor lamp. Still, a note would have been nice. As if summoned by their voices, the prop stirred. It began with a subtle twitch of one of those black-tipped ears. Then, the entire form seemed to expand as it drew a long, slow breath. Two golden eyes, slitted and ancient, blinked open. They surveyed the three frozen humans with an expression of supreme and utter indifference. The creature lifted its head, let out a jaw-stretching, fang-bearing yawn, and then proceeded to extend its front paws in a luxurious, deep stretch, its claws unsheathing for a moment and pricking the air. The silence in the showroom shattered. Sarah let out a sharp, piercing shriek that was half terror, half disbelief. The coffee cup slipped from her fingers, clattering against the polished concrete floor and exploding in a splash of brown liquid and ceramic shards. Frank, a man who had seen his share of strange things in his 70 years, took 2 quick steps back, his eyes wide as dinner plates. "Well, I'll be hornswoggled," he whispered. Arthur froze completely, his hand hovering in mid-air. His meticulously ordered world had just been invaded by a creature from the sun-scorched chaparral and granite cliffs that surrounded their town. Lounging on his $5,000 Italian leather sofa, flicking its short, bobbed tail lazily, was a wild, honest-to-goodness bobcat. Chaos, a concept utterly foreign to Desert Luxe interiors, erupted. Sarah scrambled behind the solid oak reception desk, peering over the top like a soldier in a trench. Frank continued his slow retreat toward the stockroom. Arthur, recovering slightly, fumbled for his phone, his fingers suddenly feeling like clumsy sausages. He tried to dial 911, but his mind was a blur of insurance clauses and potential liability. What was the protocol for a wild feline taking up residence in your showroom? They didn't cover that in management seminars. Outside on the sidewalk, Mrs. Higgins, a local woman whose morning walk always included a thorough window shopping tour of the town's storefronts, stopped dead in her tracks. She pressed her face to the cool glass, her glasses fogging up. Her mouth fell open. She could see the bobcat clearly, now grooming a paw with regal nonchalance, completely unbothered by the human panic it had caused. "Oh my heavens," she gasped, her voice loud enough to attract the attention of a couple walking their poodle. Soon a small crowd had gathered, phones held aloft, a chorus of astonished whispers rising from the sidewalk. The bobcat, seemingly aware of its newfound audience, gave them all a slow, unimpressed look. It adjusted its position on the premium leather, nestled its head on the armrest, and closed its eyes. The message was clear. "Yes, peasants, I have chosen this couch. Your commotion is disturbing my nap. Please see yourselves out." The night before had been one of terror and confusion for the young bobcat. He was barely a year old, recently pushed out by his mother to find his own territory in the vast expanse of the Prescott National Forest. Life was a constant pressing search for food, water, and safety. Hunger, a sharp and persistent ache in his belly, had driven him closer to the fringes of human civilization than he normally dared to venture. The scent had been intoxicating, an irresistible promise of an easy meal. Chickens. He'd followed it to a small, ramshackle coop on the outskirts of town, his sleek, spotted body moving like a shadow through the scrub oak and manzanita. Instinct took over. With a powerful leap, he was over the flimsy wire fence. The ensuing squawks and frantic flutter of wings were a symphony of survival. But his victory was short-lived. A door burst open, spilling yellow light into the yard. A man shouted, his voice a terrifying boom in the quiet night. Then came the dogs, two loud baying hounds that charged with a ferocity the Bobcat had never encountered. Adrenaline surged through him. He abandoned his prize and fled, the hounds hot on his heels. He ran blindly, his paws pounding on unfamiliar hard ground. He dodged between strange square boulders that smelled of metal and oil. The woods, his home, were gone. In their place was a bewildering labyrinth of fences, walls, and glaring lights. The barking faded behind him, but he was hopelessly lost. Every direction he turned led him deeper into the strange, hard-smelling world of humans. The stars, his usual guides, were washed out by the artificial glow of streetlights. Exhausted, thirsty, and terrified, he searched for a place to hide, a dark, quiet den where he could wait for the terrifying world to go silent. As dawn threatened to break, he found it. A back door to a large, silent cave, left carelessly ajar. He slipped inside, the air cool and still. The scents were strange, wood and chemicals and something else, something soft and animal-like. He padded through the darkness, his paws silent on the smooth floor, until he found the source of the soft scent. It was a wide, comfortable ledge. He leaped up, circled 3 times out of instinct, and collapsed into a deep, dreamless sleep. The terror of the night finally receding into the blissful quiet of his temporary sanctuary. Back in the showroom, the silent standoff continued. The Bobcat dozed. The staff hid. The crowd outside grew. Finally, the reassuring sound of sirens cut through the morning air. 2 vehicles pulled up. A Prescott police cruiser and a white truck from the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Out of the truck stepped Dr. Carla Reyes. She was a woman in her mid-40s, with a face weathered by the Arizona sun and a calm, capable demeanor that immediately lowered the temperature in the room. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes, sharp and intelligent, took in the entire scene in a single glance. The terrified employees, the crowd outside, and the slumbering feline celebrity. She was flanked by 2 veterinary technicians, a young, eager-looking man named Ben and an older, steadier woman named Maria. Arthur rushed to meet them at the door, his voice a torrent of hushed anxiety. "Thank you for coming, Doctor. He just appeared. He's on my brand new Vesuvius sofa and he simply won't leave." Dr. Reyes offered him a small, reassuring smile. "It's all right, Mr. Pendleton. Let's just take a look." She entered the store, moving with a quiet confidence that spoke of years spent handling unpredictable situations. She motioned for the police officer to keep the crowd back and for Ben and Maria to bring in a large transport carrier and their gear. She approached the sofa slowly, stopping a good 20 feet away. The Bobcat opened one eye, regarding her with suspicion. "Well now," Carla said, her voice low and soothing, barely above a whisper. Look at you. You've found the most comfortable spot in the whole town, haven't you? She knelt, making herself smaller and less threatening. He's not aggressive, she said to Arthur and his staff, who were watching from their various hiding spots. Look at his ears, they're not flattened. His body is relaxed. He's not hissing or growling. He's just exhausted and scared. He wandered into the wrong place and now he doesn't know how to get out. Carla explained that they'd had a call the previous night about a bobcat raiding a chicken coop on the west side of town. The description matched. He likely got chased into town and got disoriented. Poor guy probably ran all night and just found the first safe, dark place to crash. The slow, patient work of rescue began. Ben set up the large plastic carrier, placing it on the floor with the door open, a few feet from the sofa. The hope was that the bobcat, seeking a more enclosed, den-like space, might wander in on its own. The bobcat ignored it completely, letting out an annoyed little huff and turning his head away. Next, Carla tried a catch pole, a long pole with a secure loop at the end. She approached with slow, deliberate movements. The moment the pole came within a few feet of him, the bobcat's ears flattened slightly. A low, guttural rumble started deep in his chest. It wasn't a roar, but a clear warning. That's close enough. Carla immediately retreated. Okay, plan A is a no-go. We're not going to stress him out more than he already is. Let's just give him a minute. For the next half hour, a strange and quiet battle of wills unfolded in the hushed elegance of Desert Luxe interiors. Dr. Reyes sat on the floor, talking to the bobcat in a calm, monotonous stream of nonsense. You're a very handsome fellow, you know that? Yes, you are. You have excellent taste in furniture, absolutely top-notch. But this isn't your home, little guy. We need to get you back to the woods. The bobcat just watched her, his golden eyes unblinking. He seemed to be considering her words and finding them wanting. Then, Ben had an idea. He rummaged in their supply kit and pulled out a Ziploc bag. The scent that wafted out was smoky and savory. Turkey jerky, he whispered. The good stuff. Never met a carnivore who could resist it. Carla's eyes lit up. Brilliant. She took a piece, its smell filling the air. On the sofa, a nose twitched, an ear swiveled. The bobcat's gaze, previously fixed on Carla, now locked onto the strip of dried meat in her hand. His hunger, it seemed, was beginning to overpower his stubbornness and fear. Carla tossed the piece, and it landed on the rug a few feet from the sofa. The bobcat watched it for a long moment. Then, with a fluid grace that was breathtaking to behold, he hopped off the leather cushions, silently padded over to the jerky, and devoured it in 2 quick bites. A collective silent cheer went through the staff. Carla tossed another piece, this time a little closer to the open door of the carrier. The bobcat followed, his caution warring with his appetite. He ate the second piece, then looked at Carla, a clear question in his eyes. More? She placed the next piece just inside the entrance of the carrier. He hesitated, sniffing the plastic crate with suspicion. He looked from the jerky to Carla, to the silent humans watching him, then back to the jerky. His stomach won. He stretched his neck, darted his head in, snatched the treat, and retreated. Almost there, Maria whispered. For the final, crucial move, Carla placed a small pile of jerky at the very back of the carrier. It was an all-or-nothing gambit. The bobcat would have to go all the way inside to get it. He paced in front of the carrier for a full minute, his short tail twitching. The tension in the store was thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, he made his decision. With a determined step, he walked into the dark plastic box. The moment he was inside, Maria, moving with practiced speed, swung the grated door shut. The latch clicked home with a soft, definitive sound. The Bobcat, realizing he'd been tricked, let out a single frustrated snarl, but he didn't thrash or fight. It was the sound of weary resignation. The air rushed out of Arthur's lungs in a long sigh of relief. It was over. The Bobcat was taken to a nearby wildlife rehabilitation center. The vets confirmed Dr. Reyes's assessment. He was a healthy young male, uninjured but severely dehydrated, undernourished, and utterly exhausted. They gave him fluids, a proper meal of raw meat, and a quiet, secure enclosure where he could finally rest without fear. The staff at the center, amused by his story, affectionately nicknamed him Vesuvius, after the sofa he had claimed. News of the Desert Luxe Bobcat spread through Prescott like a wildfire. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with a photo Mrs. Higgins had taken through the window. The TV station from Phoenix sent a news crew. Arthur Pendleton, once a man who shunned the spotlight, found himself giving interviews, recounting the tale with a growing sense of wonder and pride. When the store reopened the next day, a crowd was waiting. But they weren't just there to shop. They were on a pilgrimage. They came to see the spot where it had happened, to touch the famous sofa, and to hear the story firsthand from Sarah and Frank. The sofa, which had been seen as an expensive luxury item, was now a local icon. "Is this it? Is this the one?" customers would ask in hushed, reverent tones. Arthur, a shrewd businessman above all else, embraced the legend. He had the sofa professionally cleaned, though the Bobcat had been a remarkably tidy guest, leaving behind only a few stray hairs, and placed a small, elegant brass plaque on the floor beside it. It read, "The Bobcat Sofa, personally approved by Prescott's most discerning and wild customer." The sofa sold within a week to a wealthy rancher who loved the story. Arthur immediately ordered 3 more. The Bobcat sofa became the store's signature piece, a symbol of the wild, untamable spirit of Arizona finding comfort in the heart of civilization. A few days later, Dr. Reyes called Arthur. "Just wanted to let you know," she said, her voice warm. "We released Vesuvius this morning. Took him deep into the Prescott National Forest, miles from any homes. He's back where he belongs." She described how, upon opening the carrier, the young Bobcat had hesitated for only a second, breathing in the familiar scent of pine and dust. He'd given one last fleeting look back at his human captors before melting silently into the trees. Years passed. The story of the Bobcat in the furniture store became a beloved piece of Prescott folklore, told and retold until it took on the warm, burnished glow of a legend. Arthur Pendleton eventually retired, leaving the store to a grateful Sarah. But the Bobcat sofa remained the centerpiece of the showroom, a permanent tribute to their most memorable day. Sometimes, on quiet mornings, Sarah would stand before the sofa and swear she could almost see the faint impression of a wildcat, curled up and sleeping peacefully on the cushions. The incident had taught them all something valuable. It had reminded them that no matter how much concrete they poured or how high they built their walls, they were only guests in a much older, wilder world. A world that, every now and then, would wander inside, look around, and decide to take a nap. And everyone in Prescott, from the mayor to the mailman, agreed on one thing. That particular Bobcat had more style and better furniture sense than most people they knew.